Okay. So I guess I was saying to Kat, about the butterflies going away, and there was a beautiful graphic about it. Whatever he says, I don't need to see it. I know they're going away and they're going to zero. And it was a very sad, just how many we've lost. We used to have 1.1 billion, and now we have, none. And Kat says it's going to none. We don't, and so, oh, thank you. Oh, that's good. You can turn it off, or you're leaving the back.
I'll leave it on.
That's fine. I like it. I like it. So anyway, it's very calming, that music about being kind and loving. That's what they said. Remember this music of, what is it called? The video. Well, the video is called Spirited Away.
The video, it's an animation. It's called Spirited Away.
It has
and
a lot
the credits music is called Always With You.
Oh, that's nice.
And it's just a Japanese woman playing a harp and singing, in Japanese. And the lyrics are very sad and bittersweet. And even the movie Spirited Away is sad and bittersweet. And so it's a good theme song to what you were wanting to bring up.
Well, yeah, that we're not making the changes to really be fossil fuel free. We're just
that wasn't what you were going to mention. I'll address that.
Ecological collapse.
I'll address that too as a separate point. But what you were talking about was something far more specific.
Ecological collapse, I guess, is what I'm saying.
No, you came in here talking about
butterflies,
the monarch butterflies.
Okay, right, specifically.
You forgot that?
Yeah, no, I didn't.
Okay.
I was trying.
So that's what you were mentioning, and you were saying that you saw a chart that the monarch butterfly population is declining.
It says you're very, very close to like 180.
It doesn't matter. The actual number doesn't matter. This is where people get into the weeds. That they're asking, well, are there 2,000 butterflies left in the world, or are there 3,000? Maybe there's even 4,000, or maybe it's as few as 50. Okay, so people get lost in the weeds. Biologist here, you think I would be all concerned about the numbers, the actual number? How many butterflies are there? Okay, how much climate change is there? How much time do we have? Okay, I am beyond the numbers at this point. The biologist is in the room, and I've been telling you personally in our conversations for 2 solid years that the monarch butterflies are gone. I don't care if there's 1,000 of them left. I don't care if there's 20,000 of them left. Their situation is that their habitat is being lost. There was an entire grove in Mexico where the butterflies would collect every winter. Those trees were all cut down for economic purposes.
They were?
Yes. They were annihilated.
I didn't know that.
And there was an effort in Mexico to preserve that very small, it was like 10 acres of woodland.
For the butterflies, right?
And there was some businessman who owned it. And he wanted to, I don't know what he wanted to do with it. Cut the trees for lumber or develop into a hotel or whatever it was. And he was getting pushback. And the Mexican government was saying, oh, but the monarch butterflies, and this is important habitat. And then I think just one day someone came back and looked for the monarch butterflies. And not only did they not see the butterflies, they didn't see the trees.
They took down those trees.
He had gone in there in the dead of night when nobody was looking and cut them all down.
Really? That's really truth?
That's what happened as far as I recollect. Okay.
Ooh.
And that's when I told you, don't worry about how many monarch butterflies there are.
Because it's down. We cut it down. We destroyed their habitat.
Because they have nowhere to live on this world.
Oh my God. So
they are done.
I didn't know that happened. I didn't even know that
They
happened.
are done. Okay.
What year was that?
It doesn't matter. You're stuck on the numbers. You're out in the weeds, and you're doing what activists do. You're trying to say, well, if there's 1,000 left, we can still save them. If there's 50 left, we can still save them. If there's 2 butterflies left, we can still save them. And I'm here to tell you, as a biologist, they're done.
I didn't know we cut down their habitat in Mexico. I didn't know that. I never.
They're done. It doesn't matter if we did or we didn't. They're done.
Something's wrong. Yeah.
You can tell because the numbers are plummeting. They do these surveys because they're so important.
But I didn't know we cut down their
And as an indicator species, they are trying to tell us something. Even as they perish, they're telling us a story about life on Earth.
Right.
And I'm here to tell you, and I've been telling you consistently for 2 solid years, when people started saying, well, the numbers are getting low. Well, the numbers are worse than last year. Well, we haven't seen any at all this year. I began telling you 2 years ago, they're done. The biologist is in the house, and the biologist says, don't worry about the monarch butterflies. They're done. Now, with that information, does that stimulate you to have a second thought about anything else? Like, how about all of life on Earth? Because you can't save the butterflies right now. They are done. And there's a lot of other things you don't know about that are equally done. And the problem with climate change and the problem with global heating is, at this today, in my last video done 30 minutes ago, I made a case that we are done. It's done, people. So you come in here telling me that there's yet another number for the monarch butterflies and it's on this glide path to zero and we need to do something. I keep telling you, they're done.
I didn't even know that we had knocked down their
It doesn't matter.
And
it doesn't matter if they find another habitat.
They don't find other habitats.
Okay, it doesn't matter if they do or they don't. None of these things actually matter. They are in terminal decline. There is no indication they will survive. They are almost certainly at this point functionally extinct. They're done. And maybe there will be a butterfly, you know, a small population surviving in some unknown part of Central America or some unknown part of California. And some researcher will discover it accidentally and say, oh, look, I found this tiny colony of monarch butterflies somehow clinging to life. It doesn't matter. They're done. They're no longer a factor in the life of Earth. They're finished. And maybe that'll happen this year. Maybe it won't happen for 4 or 5 years. Maybe it won't happen for 10 years. It doesn't matter when it happens. They've been on the planet for whatever, 50 million years. And now they're done because of us. We did this. They're done because of us. And while we are here doing what we do, the chances of them going to zero is 100% because that's what we do. And there is nothing happening in the human world right now that I could point to or would accept as evidence that the fate of the monarch butterflies is something other than zero.
Exactly. Well, that's true.
Okay.
And along with a million
and
other species.
while the political will and the economic will and the social will and everything else about humanity remains as it is now, nothing will improve for the monarch butterflies or anything else in their situation, and their destiny is the number zero. That is where they're going. We are in the 6th mass extinction. If you think the 6th mass extinction is going to be limited to little tiny things living in tiny crevices that you never even knew about and don't care about, you're wrong. The 6th mass extinction will sweep into its cavernous belly lots of things that you thought were too important to lose. We may lose not only all the monarch butterflies, but all the butterflies of size. We may lose not just a few tiny lemurs living on the fringes of Madagascar, but the entire mammalian cohort on Madagascar. Every mammal on Madagascar could be annihilated.
They're almost there. They lost so much.
And that one island contains a disproportionate percentage of the unique animal life on this planet. And then you go to Africa. You could lose in the 6th mass extinction every single charismatic mammal in Africa. Everything with a name. Everything that ever showed up in a David Attenborough documentary. Every one of them could be swept up in the 6th mass extinction and absolutely annihilated. They may only continue to exist in zoos, and then because they are the last, they may be sold out of zoos into private collections, never seen again. The money, the value of the last breeding pair of elephants will be incalculable, could not be calculated.
Money.
And someone with money will want them. And they may not want them to breed them. They may want them to eat them, thinking these animals are of no value, but if I butcher them, the steaks are worth billions of dollars a pound.
And I'll live longer.
I'll have money. And I can't do anything with the last 2 breeding pairs of elephants on Earth, but I can get rich. And with the money, I can do something for myself. and my community and my nation and you know, and my friends. I can do something with the money. And that's what's going to happen. This is now a certainty. The extinction of the monarch butterflies is, I will put in a weasel word, virtually certain. And you'll come in here next year, just like you just did just now, and you'll tell me, well, the monarch butterflies, you know, there's fewer of them this year than last year. And I'll say, yeah. You know where they're going? 0. That's where they're going. They're going there. And I'm not saying that to stimulate you to save the monarch butterflies. You cannot save them.
It's too late.
You can acknowledge and you can grieve and you can internalize the sorrow.
Beat your chest about
you
how
can internalize the sorrow and cope with the sorrow. And harden yourself against worse to come. And prepare yourself as a cancer patient prepares themselves for a loss. You can prepare yourself the way you would prepare yourself if a loved one has just suffered a car accident and is now in the hospital in a vegetative state. You can start preparing yourself for loss. That's all you can do. Okay, maybe a miracle will happen, but you can't go forward expecting or planning for miracles. Prepare for loss. If a miracle happens, well then, you know, praise whatever deities you think are responsible for a miracle. But you can't plan for that. Plan for loss. Lots of it. And plan to lose the monarch butterflies to start with. Start making those plans.
And plan to lose, 800 million people every year from pollution. And that's just going to go up as things get worse, you know, and more polluted and, you know.
No, pollution will be the least of your problems.
Well, it will kill people. It kills people, though, is what they say. It kills people.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. But, you know, 800 million people
every
distributed
year
around the planet dying of actually, frankly, unknown causes, okay? You know, person got sick and died. No one even bothered looking at their lungs or their pancreas.
Well, they're saying, I don't know where they got the figures, but that's...
Yeah, I don't know either. But you know what? I bet you almost none of those people, I'll go out on a limb, 800 million people died of really pollution, causing cancers or emphysema or whatever. I'll bet you not one of those people, not one, had the cause of death listed as pollution. Not one. And you say, oh, yeah, that's probably true. Yeah, of course it's true. Cause of death was emphysema. The cause of death was rising of the lights. The cause of death was cancer.
Heart disease,
the cause of death was heart disease.
You know,
the cause of death was withering.
Asthma.
The cause of death was whatever. No, just gave up living. Had asthma all their life and finally gave up living. The cause of death was this, that, and the other thing. Not one of those 800 million people, not one, not even in the Western world, will have the cause of death given as pollution. That's called bias, institutional bias, and it's never going to happen. Not going to happen.
Right. Institutional bias meaning
doctors and coroners and epidemiologists. They have an institutional bias
to keep business as usual.
Yeah, keep business as usual. And it's worse than that. If you're a scientist and you're studying an ecosystem, you can't even report. Let's say you're studying the monarch butterflies. Let's say you're doing that. Say you're actually studying the monarch butterflies and you're noticing that their numbers are decreasing. You can't even publish a paper that contains a conclusion or an observation that the monarch butterflies are likely functionally extinct. You couldn't publish that paper. And you would be unwise to publish that paper. Now, you could publish a paper that says the monarch butterfly population is declined again this year or declined last year. You can publish a paper that says the monarch butterfly population continues in decline. Now, I'm being very careful in my wording here. Okay, I'm thinking like an editor. I'm saying, yes, you can publish that paper because that's data-driven. You could not make the observation, even if it's true, even if it's biologically correct, you could not make the observation that if the monarch butterfly continues on this trend, it will become extinct. You could not actually publish a paper with that conclusion or that observation in it. You could go everywhere else with that number, that it's decreasing and heading towards zero, but you could not mention that it's heading towards zero. You could not get that paper published. They would not publish it. They would make you edit that paper and say, that's a projection,
And
that's an opinion, and you can't include that in the scientific
Well,
journal.
right.
They'll make you take that out.
And I guess it would be pollution and what is it also?
Hey.
Wait, no, I was thinking about the two causes of the decline. Or one is pollution, but it's also their habitat destruction. That's really a big part. Habitat destruction.
Okay, you can
and
publish
pollution.
that.
Pollution and habitat.
You can publish those two things. You could say, according to our data and the observations we're making on the ground, the reason, one reason for the decline of the monarch butterflies is habitat loss. This is published all the time. Okay, one reason for the decline of gray wolves in North America has been because of habitat loss. That gets published all the time. And when the monarch butterflies are extinct, then someone will say, and the reason why the monarch butterflies became extinct was because of a continuous habitat loss. So they couldn't reproduce, they couldn't overwinter, they were constantly disturbed, and they eventually couldn't get themselves together and they went extinct. Okay, you could publish that after the fact and even before the fact. What you would never be allowed to say in a paper is, if this trend continues and if habitat loss is not addressed, the monarch butterflies will go extinct. You would not be permitted to publish that. And you will never read words like that in a journaled article. Why? Because that's bad news. That's bad news. Even though it's true, and even though it is demonstrably correct according to the data, you would not be allowed to publish it. You would get too much political flack. You would get flack from investors in these programs that fund grants. You would just get too much pushback. You would never be allowed. The institutional bias would prevent you from being allowed to publish that. Therefore, since every researcher knows that, they don't even write that into their journal articles. They just don't do it. They report the numbers, data-driven. The numbers in monarch butterflies are down again last year, continuing a trend from the last 10 years. And people need to know this. That's it. That's all you can say. That's all you will be allowed to say. And everybody else who reads the article will say, well, that's interesting. And then they go on. And if you were allowed to publish an alarming statement like, and if this continues, butterfly populations will be extinct in 7 years. If you were allowed to publish that, people would stand up and say, wait, extinct? Wait, let me read that again. What do you mean extinct? What's that about?
What about the sixth mass extinction?
And then there will be held rates.
A million species they're projecting.
Yeah, we have the sixth mass extinction.
That should be on our headlines every day.
As another example, we have the sixth mass extinction going on. They trot it out. Well, we're in the beginning years of the sixth mass extinction. It will take 40, 50 years to work through all this, maybe longer. We don't really know. We haven't been in one before.
And nobody's talking about it. It's like it's
okay,
not
but you know what they don't say? They don't say what that implies.
Yeah.
We're in the sixth mass extinction. It's like saying, well,
have a good day.
Yeah, it's 9 o'clock in the morning. No one says what it means that we're in the middle of the sixth mass extinction. Do you know why no one says what that means?
Because it's not good for business.
Because it's not good for business. So as a researcher, you can do research on mass extinctions, and you can say
vaccines,
and you can say we are in one, and you can say what extinction means, and you can even number it. This is the sixth mass extinction. You can even give it a name. Bob. This is Bob, the mass extinction. You could do all these things, but you can't say. And by the way, what we expect that to mean is that there won't be any elephants, giraffes, hippopotamuses, crocodiles, sturgeon. You couldn't say that.
I was just realizing
you couldn't give any implications to what the statement means.
Right.
It won't be published.
And what
nobody will do it. Nobody will say it.
I was thinking also about our vaccination program is that everything has been about vaccinations. And, we're supposed to be, back to business as usual. And, they really want that. So much of our resources have gone to vaccinations. And,
Okay, you just changed the topic.
I know. I'm taking the topic.
About something else.
But, we're not really addressing some of the bigger issues that we're having right now because of COVID. And that's people, even, Sam Mitchell and Collapse Chronicles says he doesn't want to even talk about, COVID. But, because it's a distraction. But that's what I'm basically saying is that everything is going towards that. Like it's a solution because it's the Band-Aid that capitalism and consumerism want on on their thing that they're serving us.
Okay,
you know?
but let me say something that will tie what you just said in with the topic of the video, which is that scientists are allowed to make broad brush statements that in the statement does not implicate capitalism and consumerism, or does not point to solutions that require changes in consumerism. You can make these broad statements about nature that we are in the sixth mass extinction, or we are in the middle of global heating and climate change, and we are doing this, and the Amazon has been decreased by 20% this year, and the tundra is thawing, and
the fires are burning,
Arctic amplification of global warming. You can say a bunch of broad statements, but you can never say anything that points any of that back to the source.
Capitalism and consumerism.
Capitalism and consumerism. You won't get published.
Right.
You won't get funded.
Really? All right, fine.
It won't happen. You won't get anything. And you will be off the radar for every day after that. And that also means that your family won't have an income. And if you think that these things don't matter, you're wrong. If you think that the corporate funding of research isn't important, you're mistaken. If you think the corporate takeover of governments that fund research isn't important, then you're mistaken. The importance of the corporate takeover of governments that fund research is that you can't have any research funded by the government that's going to implicate corporations. That's how those dots connect. So we can have an article that says in research that the monarch butterflies, their numbers are decreasing, but we cannot have a statement that says that governments need to do something, because that will point to corporations having to do less of what they do or do it differently. And corporations don't want that news. So they tell governments, we don't want bad news. They tell researchers, don't say that. And that's how that works. And that's not a conspiracy.
Even newspapers.
That's how it works.
And the newspapers that are controlled by corporations that, you know, fund their operations.
Okay, the newspapers and the academic journals that are controlled by corporations.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And the universities that are controlled by corporations. There are CEOs from corporations as leaders in academia. They control everything, nearly. And sometimes they don't have to control everything. They just have to control your salary.
That's right, right. And that's
you're living off of grants.
That's why
you're living off of research dollars. Well, guess where those are coming from?
Right, and that's why, yeah, it's all everything is very stylized. And you know, when I went to this meeting for the Google development, it turns out one of our neighbors is on the board of this religious organization. Steve, remember Steve? He's a gay guy that lived on Villa. Anyway, so, you know, they had representation, let's say, from the gay community through Steve, and then they had a black person, and it was very stylized. And, you know, we really didn't have much time to talk about anything, and anything that I mentioned, even when he came back, we broke into groups. Then when he, you know, explained what the group said, it wasn't really what the group said, you know, because he's a gatekeeper. And he was, you know, that's where we noticed it.
And he has an agenda.
Right.
And you don't have to know what his agenda is exactly.
Push Google
forward.
All
you have to know is that he has one. He has an agenda.
The three of us.
And that's going to change what he says about anything that happened in reality.
Paul Horseshoe, who's an indigenous person that lived in North Willow Glen where we lived. And then my friend Jean Dresden, she says she's been very much an activist and she reads everything. And she says, I hope I'm not here. You know, that's all my only comfort is that I won't be here when this happens. Meaning she's not happy with it, you know, and it's not a livable solution for, you know, one of the things she said is that, you know, we're asking people to not have a car and yet we're not giving them any land. And what that land really needs to be about is growing food. So we need to really be thinking about our developments as they go forward, because we really need allocations for land.
But once again, if you're going to try and allocate land for people to grow their own food, then what you're saying in an extension is that people need to get off of the consumerist treadmill, okay? That they're going to hyper-local grow their food and be self-sufficient for food, and they're not going to rely on a bunch of 18-wheelers bringing them food from all over the planet. So, and that message that we will make people self-sufficient for a primary requirement of life is not what capitalism and consumerism want to hear. Therefore, that message will not make it through the filters. It won't make it through the filters. And if you think that you're going to pick people for your group who can pass that through as a filter and say in the final summation, and our group also decided that people need to be resilient. Well, then guess what's going to happen? Your gatekeepers, your people in leadership who will be selected outside of you to translate your observations for the rest of the world, those gatekeepers will be pre-selected to be very favorable and comfortable with consumerism and capitalism. And therefore, you as an activist can have any thought you want, say whatever you want, open forum, open mic, go ahead, say what you, and it's not going to make it into the record. Oh, this wasn't important. Let's leave that part out. Oh, this was speculative. This didn't move the conversation forward. Right. This is not actionable. This is not, we can't implement this. We'll do this at another time. We'll have this be another discussion. So, this is the off topic, and it won't make it in.
Right. Yeah. And
they'll just filter it out. It's gone. Never happened. Our issues, right down the memory hole. Never happened.
You know, of how life has gone forward is not good. It's not been good here. And we're not making the changes. And,
it's been good for
capitalism.
Business.
For business, yes. Right.
Right? Right. Is it good for business? If it's good for business, and it goes forward.
Right.
If it's bad for business, it goes into the memory hole.
Right. And the ones who paid for their campaigns.
Find an example.
You know, that's what that's their job. They get their job from their campaigns, you know, and that's where Hank Paulson says, you know, government needs to change things, but we can't do it with politicians.
Hank Paulson, former head of Goldman Sachs, former Treasury at the U.S. federal government. Now he's telling us, oh, well, politicians are going to fail you. Oh, well, we have to get the discussion of climate change and all the changes we have to make out of politics, blah, blah, blah. You know, a little late, Hanky. Why weren't you talking that way when you were at the head of Goldman Sachs? Why weren't you talking that way when you were the head of the U.S. Treasury and giving money to the banks?
No, what they're showing us in Extinction Rebellion is boycotting banks for their underwriting of fossil fuel operations, you know?
Well, what they should be showing you is that doesn't work.
What does that mean? What's happening?
Boycotting the banks doesn't work.
What was that again?
Boycotting the banks doesn't work. You can't boycott banks.
We brought to their attention. It got into our news.
Okay, fine.
Because they started breaking the windows.
Limp wrist.
No, they got a lot of attention.
They broke their windows, and that's all insured losses.
And they went to jail.
You know,
they went to jail.
Well, they went to jail, and the board of the bank meets, and they don't even know what happened.
Right.
And no one even bothers telling them that people went to jail protesting the bank.
You know, breaking glass. You know, when we have if there's a climate emergency, and so she broke the glass, and she's also saying that, you know, right, and we're not responding to climate emergency. We're not.
Well, if you keep leaving any response to the looming extinction of the monarch butterflies in the hands of politicians, capitalists, retailers, manufacturers, if you keep leaving these decisions in their hands, then the monarch butterflies are going extinct. And I got more news for you. Even if you take it out of their hands and you put it in the hands of the people, the monarch butterflies are still going extinct. Because it is inconceivable to me that there is anything you could do with any number of tools. Name them. No restriction on the tools you could name. There is no tool other than divine intervention and miracle and magic that's going to save them. That's it. Appeal to, you better hope there's a God. You better hope that God is listening, that God cares, because nothing else, there's no other tool you could mention other than divine intervention that's going to save them.
Okay, and the other thing you've been saying is grow food. This guy's just been saying that. That's what he says all the time. And it is a beautiful thing. Yeah, grow food.
Yeah, grow food. Save yourself.
I love it. I love it.
I would say the same thing to the monarch butterflies. Grow food, except they can't do that.
Right.
I would tell the monarch butterflies.
We have our intelligence. We
travel
can do
somewhere else.
We can
start growing your own food.
And we can learn.
Stop waiting for the humans to save you. I can tell the monarch butterflies that, but it's not actionable in their world.
Right. So Kat says that's all I'm supposed to do. But I keep sneaking in, my political activism, because this morning I was dealing with the Google development, and I thought, okay, and I was in the meeting, but it was very disheartening. But I did connect with two other people. Paul Horseshoe Soto. He's an indigenous person, and he's really a very truth teller. He's very good. And he says that we cut off the heads of the Indians. Did you know that?
Of course
he said that. And then the federal government. No, exactly. There was $1 million a head. It was $100 a head for the
Yeah.
Indians. They gave money to kill the Indians. That's what he's telling us.
Yeah,
That's our.
of course
That's
they did.
our. That's who
Of
the,
course they did.
that's
Why
what
would
this-
you even question that? And why would they do things any differently? Of course,
so
that's what they did.
sad. And that's what Kat says, that we're really having a karma.
Here's
you know,
another little bit of history for you: scalping.
That's
Okay.
what I'm talking about. That was paid for the scalp. They
Yeah.
were paid. The
that's-
federal government
It
paid
wasn't.
people to kill
I mean,
the Indians.
if you watch
I
the
didn't know
Hollywood movies,
that. Yeah.
the Hollywood westerns, John Wayne, okay,
Yeah.
and they talk about the Indians, the savages, scalping people, you know, and killing them or scalping them and taking
Growing
their scalp.
food and
the
running
Indians
naked,
learned that from the
running
white
naked,
people,
and
because the white people put a bounty on dead Indians.
we did.
And
That's what Paul
that's
Soto
exactly what
said.
they did. And why bring in an entire dead Indian when all you have to do is bring in their hair? And no one's going to let you cut their hair off when they're still
Oh,
alive.
and with a little scalp in it, of course. Forget
Yeah.
just the
And you
hair.
just
Forget
put
that.
Put
It's a
that
little
part in a
scalp.
bag.
You know they're dead.
Yeah,
Ah.
no one's going to. Yeah, it's sick. Well, that's the white
That's what the people
came up with.
did.
No,
And they
no,
killed
not
the
the
Indians.
people.
The
The
white
white
people
people.
who came, the
And
capitalists.
I'm not making that
the
up.
capitalists.
White
They
man.
put the
knows.
railroad in and destroyed our
I know
health
my history.
and all the things. The railroad came in and all the things that happened.
And
right?
you think we're going to save
And
the
the
monarch
trucks and the-
butterflies? You think we're going to
Yeah.
save the monarch butterflies? No, we're
No,
not
we
going to do that.
destroyed everything.
We're going to destroy those two.
Yeah, we destroyed it. I
Because
say,
there's money to be
I
made.
only have multiple
I have
sclerosis.
no-
I'm not dead.
I have no expectation. The actual expectation I have, the number I assign to the expectation I have is not low. It is 0. I have no expectation of saving the monarch butterflies.
Right. No. Can't even save ourselves. We kill 800 million of us every
My
year from
expectation
pollution.
is not low or hopeless or maybe.
It's 0.
My expectation is actually 0. And there will be 0 monarch
Mhm.
butterflies. They will be extinct. That's my actual expectation as a professional biologist.
There goes our science curriculum.
Well, it's going to be real hard in the future to talk to children and with a straight face. If you're a biologist and in your career, you basically presided over the extinction, the 6th mass extinction. The 6th mass extinction is now on
our books.
Is up to bat.
On our books.
It's up to bat.
It's on
and
our
it's
books.
It's on our books.
It's on
okay?
our blood on our hands.
And how is a future biologist going to be able to stand in front of a classroom full of children and start teaching them biology and monarch butterflies and the monarch butterfly life cycle and the butterfly life cycle and larvae and caterpillars and all this stuff, and without mentioning that they're all gone? How are you going to be able to do that with a straight face? I mean, I can't imagine that children will sit for that. They're going to be quite aware of what has happened, and you're going to have to start every single lesson in biology saying, okay, now, the good news is we're going to learn some biology. The bad news is there isn't any left. We're talking about systems that are gone. That's how you're going to have to do it. Every single lesson. Every time you crack it open a book, you're going to have to say, okay, this chapter is on butterflies. All these species I'm mentioning here are gone. But we can still talk about butterflies in general, shall we? And the kids are going to be like, kill me now. All right? They're smart enough to understand that as you go through the book and say, well, actually, this species is gone and these are going and we couldn't save these. And these are beautiful animals, but they're gone. As you try to teach, in fact, I would imagine that at some point in the future, biology as a curriculum, as an entire part of the science curriculum, vanishes from schools.
Yeah, right.
It's going to have to. It's going to have to.
There is no more left.
It's going to have to because one,
It's
there's not going to be anybody left in the field. Why?
It's a dead history. Essentially.
Why
it's a history
would
that has no
relevance. It's like it has no
Why
relevance.
study it?
Why would you study
When
it?
we have
and
to
put in
survive
4
without them. We have to learn.
6
We're gonna
or
be very
8
busy.
years of education.
We'll be very busy.
To teach biology when it's gone.
Right, we'll be
Okay?
very
And
busy
2,
pollinating our trees.
why would politicians allow a curriculum to contain that much of that damning of a reality? The biology's gone.
Right.
That the books contain and always will contain references to organisms that have gone extinct
Right.
because of politics and economics and business as usual and consumerism and all these other things.
Right.
Why would they allow that in the curriculum? Why would they allow that discussion to come up? They won't.
But it's true.
Yeah, of course it's true. It's true because it's true. It happened.
Right.
And they won't allow
It's
it in
on
the
our watch.
curriculum.
And I realize,
And
and
they'll teach you coding,
I-
and they'll teach you history, and they'll teach you social studies and black studies, and
you better
and,
learn
and, you know,
engineering
and
because you're gonna do-
economics, and there won't be any biological.
there won't be
curriculum.
any more biology.
Won't be
That's
any
true.
discussion of
There won't be
biology. That's
anything.
not going to happen.
Yeah.
They're not going to allow it. And there will be children who grow up never knowing. All they'll know is their concrete canyons.
The Mars that we've created here.
Or that we have people on Mars.
We've essentially created
Here's
a Mars
the history
here.
of the space program.
created
and here's,
a Mars
here's
here.
the whole life story of Elon Musk.
We
and
destroyed
what,
life
you'll
here.
know all that stuff. You'll be up to here in that
We will
stuff.
become the Mars. We will become the Mars, you know.
And there won't be any biological curriculum.
Yeah,
nothing.
Right. Great. Yeah, right. That's our future. That's
And
our
when I
future
was
future.
teaching biology at Chico State University, we would have nurses come through our program, like in anatomy and physiology and things like that. And at university, those things will remain, but they probably won't even be listed under a Department of Biological Sciences. In the future, the necessary classes like anatomy that people need to know to be a doctor or surgeon will be under some completely different department. Department of Health, a Department of Medicine, I don't know what, but it won't be biological sciences anymore. And the people who teach it won't be biologists, they'll be anatomists. Anatomy, you know, bones, blood, all this other stuff. Forget about the biology part. We're just studying humans now, just humans, all that other stuff doesn't matter, never happened, okay? That's how it's going to be. There's no way it can be any other way. It can't be any other way. It has to be exactly as I describe it. Because the politicians won't allow a discussion of how they failed and how they allowed the sixth mass extinction to proceed on course, unabated, unaddressed, business as usual, going forward, whatever happens, happens. It was necessary, it was sufficient. We couldn't stop it. We had to keep going, business as usual, economic growth, jobs, all this kind of stuff. Sixth mass extinction can't stop this. And that's exactly what's going to happen. It is now inevitable. We are in the sixth mass extinction, and everything will fall from that. Everything, including the monarch butterflies going to extinction.
And let's not forget, like I remind everybody, the beautiful dolphins that are suffering as we speak with 30-degree burns on their skin that is so traumatic to live with that their organs shut down, everything shuts down, and they die. And so that's because of our hyposalination of our waters. The waters are not the same salinity because of all of our flooding.
Okay, it's not. Okay, now I'm going to disagree with you. It's not because hyposalinization of seawater. It's because
burning of fossil fuels.
Business as usual.
That's right, burning of fossil fuels.
Okay, it's not because you get lost. Everybody gets lost in the weeds.
Okay, good, thank you. Yeah, well, that's
it's not that. No. That's the proximate reason, and there's the ultimate reason.
Right.
The proximate reason is because there is so much runoff now from land because of rain that the coastal oceans are now have less salt in them than they should. It's mostly fresh water because of all the runoff.
There's so much flooding.
And the porpoises and the dolphins, they live coastally. They're not pelagic species. They're not like whales that live out in the deep ocean. They're coastal, and so they're living coastally, breeding and feeding coastally, and so the water isn't salty enough to support the health of their skin and their internal physiology.
Seals, right? These are seals.
Seals or dolphins or porpoises.
Porpoises, yeah, the dolphins, and then there's the sea lions. They're all in the same.
Okay, yeah, they're all.
But right now we're
seeing the dolphins. Mammals,
yeah,
right?
We're seeing the
dolphins. And so the proximate reason is, oh well, the water isn't as salty, and you can say, well, hyposalinization. That's a real problem for these sea mammals, and they're dying, and they're having terrible illnesses, skin lesions, and internal organ failure, and that's terrible because hyposalinization. And hyposalinization this and hyposalinization that. And you can get completely lost in the weeds talking about the proximate problem. What's the ultimate problem? Right. Too much rainfall. Where's the rainfall come from? Climate change and global heating. Okay?
Right.
And you can't say these things. That the reason they're dying is because of global heating and climate change. You can't say that. You can't connect those dots for people because it interferes with business as usual.
Right.
You can't get published if you say those things. So you don't say them. It never makes its way into the
article.
It
makes economic gain for your, who you support, and you're supporting business as usual, and we see it. And, that's what's not going forward. And yet that's what they're promoting. And so those are lies. So they're the people of the lie is politicians. And so we need another group.
Or the people of the omission.
Yeah.
Just didn't say it.
Right.
Never brought it up. Never allowed it to come up. As soon as it came up.
Or a lot of lies, a lot of
out.
greenwashing. Like today in this meeting with the Google, they gave us like the 2 minutes to comment or whatever. And so what it was is that they said in the meeting that net emissions for constructing Google Village, net zero emissions for construction. And it's like, what BS is that?
First of all, that's aspirational.
Yeah.
We would like for that to happen. 2, there'll be no way to measure it one way or the other. Okay.
I guess, and even to say that is just without any mechanism to make that so. We don't have any mechanism.
Yeah, it's not even actionable.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're gonna have
It's
net
just BS
zero emissions, and
for
that means for every ton of concrete we pour,
oh yeah,
we're going to take out a like amount of CO2 from the atmosphere from the creation of the cement, right?
We're not going to use cement anymore. We're going to,
Yes, they are.
Huh?
Yes, they are.
Yes, they are. I'm just saying,
Of course they're using
for
cement.
them to say that net zero emissions,
millions of tons of it.
I want to see it in the paperwork that shows no cement.
Oh no, that's easy to do. When I'm making up the spreadsheet, I'll put in 0.
Right, and they'll just make it up. Yeah.
Now what? Oh, can you prove that? Well, it's in the spreadsheet.
Yeah.
Well, where did it come from?
Right.
Well, it's very complicated. There's all these industries and all this analysis, and it all came down to 0.
Right.
Well, that was what you were striving for. Of course, it came to what you wanted. How did you do that? Well, it's complicated, and it's actually proprietary, and it's secrets, and we have contracts to say we can't reveal how we did this. And they're like, throw up your hands. I mean, it was always going to be hand waving. It was always going to be phony. The very aspirational intent was unactionable.
Yeah.
We will have net zero emissions. We are going to emit carbon in the creation of our new village, but we're going to remove as much in the end as we emitted. And maybe we'll even allow
so they
that.
can use that word net so that what it is they can have
You
the
didn't
trucks.
cop to that?
No, because I realize now, if you use the word net emissions, that's the
net emissions is everywhere.
Right. So what you do is that you build with your fossil fuel industry, but then I don't know what you're like maybe investing in trees, investing in trees somewhere, the trillions that have.
Oh yeah.
Oh, you're investing all your money. That's the new thing in the bricks that are going to save us. That we're going to capture it. That's their whole MO.
Here's the key.
Capturing. That's what all the rich people.
Here's how they do it. I'll tell you how they do it because this is how I would do it. Okay, if it was up to me, this is how I would do it. The Google Village has an operational life of say 100 years. Just pick a number. And what we promise to do is in the future, an unknown future, 30 years from now.
Yeah.
We will have technology. In fact, we will fund it as Google. We will fund the creation of technology to remove carbon from the atmosphere 30 years from now. Of course. Down the road, right? But everyone hearing these words will be dead. The words are 30 years from now, we will have technology in place and we will invest in the R&D to have that technology that will remove carbon. And when we have that technology, we guarantee that we will spend whatever money is necessary to remove as much carbon as we put into the atmosphere building our village in the year 2022 or 2023. And so 30 years later, 2053, we will be removing that carbon. Now, please note, it's had 30 years to be in the atmosphere. And also please note that your promise 30 years from now is going to be honored by people who aren't even born yet. Will they? Will they honor your promise 30 years from now? You'll be doing this? So all of this is just hand waving. It's just like, we promise, therefore, whereas, and it doesn't mean anything. When you say net zero, it can mean anything you want.
Right.
Or nothing at all. It can mean nothing at all.
Net zero because we could go ahead and emit, let's say, 1 billion tons, but then on paperwork, we say we're reducing it.
Everybody is doing net zero. If you want to fly, I don't know which company it is, Virgin Atlantic, okay?
It's BS, yeah.
And you're saying, okay, I bought my ticket. It could say at the bottom of the ticket, with each ticket purchase and each mile flown, we will plant trees to remove your personal responsibility for the carbon emitted on your behalf by our airline. Enjoy your flight. That's what it'll say. It says that already. It doesn't mean anything.
I don't even know if it does.
And you don't even know that planting trees will remove carbon.
And the thing is, they most probably don't.
Wouldn't that be great? What if a few years later they burn those trees?
We gave them billions of dollars.
Right back in the atmosphere.
We gave them billions of dollars in the last CARE Act and all into COVID to rebuild their whole infrastructure. Wouldn't it be great if they were giving so much money for what were you saying, like for planting trees, if they really were doing that, or doing something good.
It doesn't matter if you plant trees.
Well, okay, then that's not the thing they should be doing.
But that's what they'll do.
I know.
Because they're like you.
But they should be.
They think it matters, and it doesn't.
If people would really give money and we did the right thing, what could we do? What was it would be more regulations.
There's nothing you can do.
Stop them.
Okay, well, there's not going to be regulations because that stops them. Okay?
I know, that's what we need.
The whole thing is it continues.
Yeah.
No stopping.
Yeah.
No slowing down.
Right.
And there will be a miracle in the future. Divine intervention will happen.
They're going to give us some
30 years from now,
mitigations.
when no one who made these decisions today is still alive to be held accountable for those decisions. 30 years from now, either we come up with a magical solution or God descends from heaven and solves our problem for us, or it doesn't happen, but it doesn't matter because I'm not alive anymore. That's what this conversation is about. What happens in the future? And right now, from where I'm sitting, looking out my window right now in April 2021, I don't know that there's a future to any of this. There may not be a future for any of these people.
Right.
Everybody promising to solve this in the future, they'll be dead and or retired and no longer held responsible for anything. And a lot of people who would hold them responsible may have died of starvation because of the impacts of climate change on food supplies or habitable areas or water supplies or electricity availability or anything else. They can make promises for the future knowing full well that people will be so fucking busy surviving, only survival, that they're going to have no time to hold Google accountable for their supposed mythical net zero. No one's going to come along and say, so how'd that net zero thing turn out? Let's look at that, shall we? No, you're going to be too busy scrambling around for food.
What Paul Horseshoe Soto was saying, that they're taking a lot of public land and they're going to control it, and it's going to be very ugly. That the corporations are going to be controlling our city, and it's just
Okay, first of all, going to be is not how we say this. The corporations already control our city.
Absolutely.
So now that they are being given all of this land should come as no surprise. Right. That there will be no regulations or expectations
and
should come as no surprise.
Space,
and therefore, when they say that their carbon footprint for their construction will be net zero 30 years from now, it should come as no surprise that they would say that.
And they're building hotels. They're building.
You can't hold them to
things that we really don't need. We don't even want those kind of things in our neighborhood.
Somebody wants those things in your neighborhood, and you're going to get them because they're going to make money off of those things in your neighborhood.
I know.
That's why it's happening in your neighborhood.
Right.
And your concerns don't matter.
That's right. They're belittled, and they've got a whole system
because they don't have to address them. They can simply say poo poo.
Right,
the crazy person talking again.
Right, the crazy person. That's exactly.
Why do we keep giving this person 2 minutes to talk?
So what they did is they even separated us into groups, so we didn't get to hear, and then he got to translate what we said to the group.
Yeah.
And it wasn't really what we said.
And your 2 minutes actually just went down the memory hole. It never happened.
Right.
Your 2 minutes never happened.
Well, nobody except it is recorded. It is recorded.
It doesn't matter.
It never got to the big.
The recording gets erased.
Right, if they want. Yeah.
Well, you don't know.
And he interpreted
they record you
and everything was
good.
Down
carefully.
Everything was good, but every one of us, the three of us, said we were very disappointed with the plan, and it wasn't dealing with saving.
You know what actually came out of your committee when it was reported? You're all in favor of the plan.
Exactly. That's what happened.
Of course, that's what happened. And you dare come in here and tell me that you're disappointed? Yeah. What is wrong with you personally? What is wrong with you? I want to know.
They're very smart, and they've got all these things figured out.
Now,
and they use technology to their benefits.
This is why the monarch butterflies are guaranteed with 100% certainty to go extinct.
Right.
And this is why it is 100% guaranteed with certainty that we will do nothing to address global heating and climate change.
Right.
This is why it is 100% guaranteed that most of the humans alive today will die, perish from global heating and climate change. The probability of that is numerically 100%.
Going extinct for us?
No.
What was that?
Mass die-off.
Mass die-off. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
We're already experiencing a lot of it with COVID. It started.
And now the probability of a large die-off of the human population, as soon as we shut off the fossil fuels, which they're going to have to do, is numerically guaranteed.
And even though
that's not high probability, it's not 80% probability, 90% probability, 99% probability. No, none of those. It is numerically, mathematically certain.
And the way we're living,
100% certain
and
that
the way,
this will happen.
they say, there's a lot of pre-existing conditions that cause the death of COVID, and we are very unhealthy as a people. It
is 100% guaranteed due to industrial pollutants that everybody alive today has some impact from industrialization and consumerism. Every human on the planet.
We're almost there.
I don't know there's any.
We're all in these urban locations, and we're
even
very
the people,
polluted. And,
even the undiscovered tribes living in the depths of the Amazon are breathing smoke from the fires that the industrialists set to clear the Amazon.
Right. Oh well, there's that. Yes, there's that.
Okay.
Yeah. I know.
There's no escape from it. It is 100% certain that every human being on this planet is going to suffer some depredations due to global heating and climate change. 100% certain. There's no escape. And you think that you're a Laplander living in Finland herding elk, and you think you're going to escape all this, you're wrong.
And they're talking about some deprivation. That was the word that you used, some deprivation. And so that's what we have to get prepared. That's resilience. When there's a deprivation coming, you get prepared. And that's what we're not doing. There's a lot of deprivation coming. When we say we have to get off of fossil fuels, that's deprivation. And none of us are preparing for that. We're not really going forward.
Okay, even if you're a Laplander herding caribou in Finland, and you've never seen a vehicle with an internal combustion engine in your life, you will still suffer from global heating and climate change. Even if you're a native Indian, so-called, a Native American living in the heart of the Amazon rainforest, and you have never seen a consumerist device or contraption or good of any kind, never held a single note of currency, have no idea what economics or trade is, you are going to suffer from consumerism-driven climate change. You might even, your entire tribe, never having once experienced any of this industrialization directly, could go extinct. Your entire tribe could go extinct. And any remaining members of your tribe that survive extinction could end up living in an urban core trying to cope. Trying to get a job, whatever that is, so you can have money, whatever that's for, so that you can feed yourself. Never having once experienced industrialization or consumerism directly until your tribe became extinct. There's no place where humans can live where that does not happen to them. Directly or indirectly. It's true. If someone comes along tomorrow, Bill Gates or some other bunch of industrialists, and says, well, the fossil fuel game is over. We're going to have to save the planet for ourselves. We're the elites. We love the planet. We love skiing in the ski resorts. We like snow. And we like having glaciers, and we like living in our coastal areas in Florida and whatnot. We don't want those to flood. We don't want riots and huge numbers of people roaming the planet looking for us to kill us. And so we're going to stop the fossil fuels right now. Even if that happens today, Bill Gates and all his buddies, Davos, all those people, it's not going to change anything for billions of people.
Well, you're saying we're going to be facing, absolutely, he said, he's projecting, and when he hypothesizes is based on science, and he's saying that we're going to have a mass die-off. Okay, mass die-off. All right, so he's saying yes to that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, he won't take it all the way to extinction, but he says mass die-off. Well, that's not pretty either. Look what we've already been dealing with, the little die-off with COVID.
It's not pretty to you, because you could be swept up in it.
I know, but there are a lot of people make money on it.
Let's look forward 500 years to some historian writing a history book. They're not going to mention any of this. So the ugliness of it will have gone down the memory hole. They're not going to talk about any of this. Just as school curriculums will not have a biology curriculum component. They won't. It'll be taken out. And children will never know there were monarch butterflies. They just won't know.
Because the gatekeepers won't tell them.
The gatekeepers won't tell them.
That's right.
And maybe they're self-censoring. Maybe they're censoring to protect their jobs. Maybe they're censoring to protect their sanity that they don't want to talk about.
No, I like the first thing you said, their jobs.
Okay, I'm saying there's lots of reasons to self-censor. Okay,
There's been a lot of self-censoring. We can't
a lot
even
of
talk-
self-censoring,
Yeah.
a lot of it
Can't talk
orchestrated,
about
and a lot of it just
vaccines.
happens under the
Now we
table.
cannot
People
talk
just
about
deciding not to
vaccines.
talk about certain
Can't even
things.
talk about vaccines, really. That there's anything wrong with them. I mean, it's just like you're crazy if you think there's anything wrong with them, and you have to be killed, you know. And so
I'm just
you
here
know,
to tell you
yeah.
that the winners write the history books.
That's right. That's right.
And winning is determined by the elites.
Yeah.
They actually determine who wins and who loses.
And we're still.
And if you're going to be
yeah.
a winner, if you're going to be a historian, first of all, and you're going to be a winner, then you will toe the line, or you will not write history books. And if you're an editor with a bunch of writers and you're all trying to write a history book and you're that editor, then you will toe the line. And even if your writers complain, hey, I had a whole chapter on monarch butterflies, the editor is going to say, well, they've been extinct now for 20 years. We're not talking about that anymore. Well, why? It happened. Well, but if it happened, it doesn't matter anymore. They're gone. It's like they never existed. Why beat ourselves over the head with the monarch butterflies?
You know,
It doesn't make any difference now. They're gone.
They say we shouldn't
So
know
we'll be
because
there.
you don't want to scare the horses. You don't want to scare the horses.
Oh, we don't want to depress the children. Why talk about ugly things? Why have a whole paragraph on monarch butterflies with a little picture right next to it and something that says now extinct? Why even put all that in there? Little children are going to cry and they're going to say to the teacher, teacher says right here they're extinct. How did that happen? And then the teacher has to cry and the teacher has to explain all this stuff. And then the book has to be brought to the people and to the school board. All the children were crying and all the teachers were crying about the monarch butterflies. And why do we even have this paragraph in here? And they'll take it out. In fact, since everyone knows that's what's going to happen, because that's how children are, they won't put it in. And that's how it happens, that there's nothing in the book, in biology, that mentions anything about the monarch butterflies. In fact, that's why there is no book in the biology curriculum, because it's all bad news. Oh, and that's why there can't be a biology curriculum, because all the books can't be written, because all the books contain just bad things. And why talk about bad things? And why have an entire curriculum that's just bad news? It all went extinct. It was all this big and this wide and this deep and this color and all these feathers and all these beautiful things, and it's all gone. Why even talk about it? And that's going to be the question. And the answer is going to be, we don't talk about it. It never happened.
We got to be thankful for what we have. You know?
Yeah, and we have jobs and we have economic growth and we have equality and we have justice and we have all these things that we've worked really hard to get, and we don't have a biological curriculum.
And don't bring it
because
up.
in order to have
Don't
all those
bring
other
that
nice
up.
things,
Don't
we had to
bring it up.
sacrifice
Right.
entire
and you're
living biosphere
You're dreaming.
to have it.
Like, I feel like they discard my statements because it's like you're just dreaming to think about that you're gonna have a garden somewhere and you're gonna grow food, and you're out in the weeds.
Guess what?
Right.
They're right. You are.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm not saying it's a bad dream.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying it's the wrong aspiration, but they're telling you up front, you can't have that. And watch how this happens. Because that can't happen, and because it will be unfortunate that it didn't happen, we're not going to have a conversation that suggests we knew it wasn't going to happen. There will be no evidence that we ever talked about it and made a decision not to have it. If we don't have it, it will be because of things out of our control. We never talked about it. It never came up as a topic. And then in the end, we just didn't have it. And it'll be as if it was just overlooked. So they can't have you saying we need to have gardens and open space and we need to have food production, because they would then have to say to a later generation, well, you talked about it. Why didn't you do it? They're not going to have that come up on their watch, pointing to them that they didn't do it. They talked about it and they decided not to do it. What the evidence is going to say is we never discussed it. We never discussed it. We didn't know. It was overlooked and it didn't happen. And it was nobody's fault that it didn't happen. It was all of our fault that it didn't happen. It was nobody's fault that it didn't happen. Same thing with the butterflies. You can't point anywhere in the media where there's talk about the fate of the monarch butterflies, that they are declining, that they are headed for extinction, that there's reasons for their going extinct. We know the reasons now. It's clear what we have to do, and we're not doing it. And look, we didn't do it. Oh, and look, they're extinct. That conversation never happened in the public sphere. It didn't even happen in the academic world, and it didn't happen in the scholarly journals.
Right.
It's just the numbers of the monarch butterflies today are this. Last year they were that, and the year before was this. End of discussion. Nothing actionable, nothing pointing to a dire future, nothing at all. And when they're gone, you're going to go back and look at the scholarly journals, and there's not going to be any mention of what we were supposed to do. Because if there was any mention of what we were supposed to do, then someone's going to come along and say, hey, why didn't you do it? You knew what you're supposed to do. It's right here. It's right here in the conclusions on this paper. And everybody knew this, and there were the conclusions, and we have to do this, and you didn't do it. Why? It can't be that way. It can't be in the journal. It can't be in the conclusions. It can't be anywhere. Because if it's anywhere, then someone's going to come along and say, hey, you were supposed to do this. And there's not going to be any you were supposed to do on any of this. And the monarch butterflies are the least example. And yet, in some ways, it's the most important. We can't have nice things. We can't have monarch butterflies. And in the exact same logic, the exact same set of steps, the exact same reasons why we cannot have monarch butterflies. We cannot have grizzly bears. We can't have wild salmon. We can't have meadows full of flowers. We can't have nice things. They're going away. We are in the 6th mass extinction. Extinction means gone from the earth. Mass extinction means many things gone from the earth. And the way this works is just not the little tiny things that you never knew the names of and never cared about. You overlooked. There will be a lot of that, but there will be a lot of things that go extinct that actually you knew all about. They were in David Attenborough documentaries. Now they're gone. And one prediction on my part, I'll tell you right now. Everything you have ever seen in a David Attenborough documentary is going to go extinct. Everything. All of them. Everything from the massive herds of wildebeests and the mighty elephants and the giraffes and the lions and the hyenas, everything he ever bothered to point to will be extinct. And that's why Sir David Attenborough came out in recent years and started talking about we are in the 6th mass extinction and we must do something about this, because he is seeing his entire legacy, his life's work is going down the memory hole. Now, just as there cannot be a biology text that mentions living things, anatomy, physiology, fine, not living things. Just because, and in exactly the same way that we probably can't even have a curriculum around the biological sciences. David Attenborough's entire life's work of documentaries could well become contraband. Everything he ever did, including his recent work on the importance of saving habitat and nature, everything he ever did, including maybe even his very existence. David Attenborough, who was that? What did he do? Well, he was nobody. He did nothing. His very existence may need to be purged from human memory with all of his documentaries. And every warning he ever gave must be purged from human memory because of the implications for the elites. And when the elites are the only ones determining the curriculum or the contents of the history books or what is taught and what is known and what goes forward for the next 10,000 years, when they are in charge of all that, their decision may simply be, it never happened. David Attenborough, no, it never happened. The great herds in Africa, no, that never happened. So anybody who says that happened is a conspiracist.
We become the people of the lie, and I've been feeling that as the right statement, and Kat's reaffirming it as we go into this denial trend where we're not telling the truth. And when you don't tell the truth, you just get caught up in lies and lies. You have to. That's the problem with not telling the truth, because you have to keep track of everything and how you have to suppress that.
Okay, now that's true.
So that's the people of the lie.
That's true.
And we
that's
go
a risk.
insane. We go insane.
That's
from
a risk.
And we are going insane.
I'm going to point something out to you. People who lie,
yeah,
it's only a problem for them if the truth exists. Okay?
Right. That's why we hide the truth. That's why you have to hide it. That's what you're saying. We hide the truth.
You destroy it. You don't hide it, because it could be rediscovered.
And that's
you destroy
evil.
the truth.
Evil.
Now let me give you an example of that. So the elites of the United States of America engaged in a deliberate campaign of genocide against the North American Indians, so-called Indians, North American people, the natives of North America. I'll get this straight in a minute. They engaged in a deliberate act of genocide. It was deliberate.
They paid for their heads, right?
They paid for, they paid for their heads, okay?
I never knew that.
There was money in it. People made money killing Native Americans.
Ooh.
It proceeded for 150 years until the Native Americans were utterly annihilated. Their culture completely destroyed. They were forced to live on reservations where no one even knew where they were. No one knew these people existed or what that place was at the end of that dirt road. Okay? That entire episode isn't recorded in even one history book.
I don't feel like I have heard it.
No, you haven't.
Right.
It's not recorded in a single history book.
Right.
Now, it might possibly be recorded in some scholarly journals written probably very recently about, the sociological impacts of the Western expansion. I mean, talk about mealy-mouthed, right? But children are not taught this.
No.
Now.
I didn't really know.
No, you didn't. Nobody knows. I know because I pay attention to details, all right? I know this happened.
It was your people too.
It's my people. And there's another group that knows it happened, which is the Native Americans themselves. But they don't have any channels for communication, right? They're not writing the history books. They're writing history books for themselves. And I'm sure in their curriculum on their reservations, they teach all this very clearly, although they might not. But in any case, it is not part of the American zeitgeist. Children do not know these things. Now, I want to ask you something. In terms of people of the lie and having to constantly rewrite history to keep up with the lie, the genocide of the Native Americans, since it's not recorded, is there anyone on earth alive today suffering any kind of anxiety about ever being held responsible for that? Do you think? Do you think
No.
No. Go ask the Native Americans. Do you think you'll ever have any justice? They'll tell you no. And my guess is they don't even specifically teach it in those terms in their own schools. Why? Because it would set their children up for so much anxiety and loathing that they might actually act on that and become, the next Sitting Bull or Geronimo or Wounded Knee and go out and start killing white people. And do you want your children to do that? I mean, these are your children now. Do you want to set them up to go out and kill white people and end up being killed or thrown in prison for life? Really? Do you want to do that? Who wants to be the next Leonard Peltier? Okay, who wants to be that person? Nobody. So the Native Americans, when they write their history book and they teach their history of themselves to their own children, may simply fail to mention it. I'm not sure that's true, but I could definitely make a case for why that might be true. And if they decide not to discuss it, I would understand why.
Well, Paul Horseshoe Soto said, the reason why he said that the Google plan is bad, and he said a lot of the representatives that are representing these nonprofits, he's saying they're also in bed with because they're making money. And he says, I've been going to all the meetings, every meeting I go to. That's the only thing I do from sunrise to sunset. He goes to every community meeting. And he says that, you can't be making the decisions because you have economic interest in the outcome. And so we're allowing this thing to go forward, this Google village, and it's got a lot of problems. And that's what he's saying.
So early on, when Google came to our neighborhood and started talking about buying up land and tearing down houses, the housing advocates and the homeless advocates and the indigenous people advocates, they all came out of the woodwork. Oh, you can't do that. It's unjust. Oh, you're gentrifying. You're kicking people out of homes. This is the last affordable housing in the city, and you're going to tear it down. You're going to move these people out. Okay. Very quickly, we started hearing about the Googles and the advocates started forming committees, and the city even formed Department of
the
equitability. Right. And then we stopped hearing about all the protesting and argument about what Google should do with their village. Well, why would that happen? Because they found the people who were the loudest and they brought them into the city's Department of Economic Equitability, and they gave them a fat salary and a fat pension and a budget and plenty of money to spend in their community. Here's your budget to spend in your community. Anything your people need. Here's 50,000 a year.
Well, that's what Google
spend
is
in your
giving,
community.
200 million. And so it was like,
And you know what they did?
what?
All that opposition went away. Now, is it wrong for those people to cop out? Okay, to be
Now under the paycheck, under the
there's a word for it.
they're being bought. They're being bought.
Yeah, they're being bought.
That's what
Okay.
Paul
Is
said.
it wrong for those people to be bought? No, it's not wrong. If someone comes along and offers you a lot of money and a lot of influence in your community,
Right.
and maybe you can make some of your people in your community better off,
Mm.
and maybe your community marginally is better
Right.
off as a whole. I mean, you could be the leader of that, and you could elevate a lot of people, and they're giving you money to do that. You're going to shut up and take the money because you want to elevate your people. You're not going to take, you're not going to go with the optics of standing your ground at the cost of immediately serving some of your people.
And the problem was, so the Google is giving $200 million to the community to now we're going to create some kind of group, but the politicians are choosing who is going to be in that group.
Why would it be any other way?
Right. We can't. And so there's the gatekeeping that I'm not in the group. I don't have my voice.
And you wouldn't be.
And that my politician won't even talk to me. And so.
Okay, so I don't care about the machinations and the Machiavellian and all this. I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
What I am responsible to point out and to bring to this conversation is it's always going to be that way.
Right.
Not because I say so, and because I have a mental problem and I can't be optimistic.
The politicians are bought.
It's always going to be that way because it's always going to be that way.
Yeah, so we're not going to change the way it is because that's why we're in the bad place we're in, because of money being.
We got here, because of money.
Right.
We'll stay here because of money. We're going forward into difficulties because of money. We will not say anything about the difficulties because of money. And we won't change our course because of money.
Yeah, and we're doing well now. The stock exchange is doing good.
And all the people who would say, who would raise alarm bells or mention a warning, won't because of money. And it's just
money. It's always
how it is.
Yeah, it's money.
It's not this way because I say so. Because I have a mental illness that I can't see the positive in the world. It's this way because it is this way. It's this way. Mm. And other nations look at the way we do things and are appalled. But it doesn't matter if they're appalled.
Right.
This is how we do it. Mm. And this is why we can't change course. And this is why most people will perish. And this is why the history books won't mention that people perished. And this is why the monarch butterflies will go away. And when they go away from the earth, they will leave the biology texts. And they will leave the museums.
And there'll be no curriculum. That's what
and there will be no curriculum.
That's what the scariest part.
And everything that leaves will simply never have happened.
Forever.
It will never have happened.
Because it would be
the fact that it ever happened will be
young
hidden.
People would kill.
Just like the genocide of the Native Americans by the whites headed west. It never happened.
Right. Right, like we didn't.
And
know.
even they probably
I didn't even know about that. That there was money put out for the heads of the Indians. You know, you hear that, but we never.
I've always known that, and because I know these things.
That was ugly.
Because I understand the facts on the ground. I am not allowed to have any optimism.
Right.
That we will suddenly learn how to not lie to ourselves about things.
Right.
We're going to lie about the monarch butterflies.
Right.
All the way to zero.
Like we lied about the Indians because I wasn't educated that much
about it. When the monarch butterflies are gone from the world, they will also leave the curriculum.
Right.
And when they have left the curriculum, they will leave the museums.
Right.
And every mention of them in a documentary, any documentary about the life cycle of the monarch butterfly will also disappear.
Like I didn't know that the U.S. government
and it's not going to be a shady Illuminati funding operation to purge the monarch butterflies from all human knowledge and existence. It's
proof that we've done that because I never heard here I am a 63-year-old person, educated in New York City and supposedly well educated. I didn't even know that we went across the nation, giving money to get Indian heads, and that's what we did. And
why? See, this is the problem you have, and this is the problem I have
I feel
with
like
you.
I have had that.
Why would you be surprised? You have no right to be surprised
because it was hidden. It was hidden from us,
and it was hidden deliberately.
Right.
And you have no right. As far as I'm concerned, as an intellectual, intelligent person, you have no right to be surprised.
Mm-hmm. And that's what we have
if
to learn
someone comes
from
along
the
and tells you, "Oh yeah, that whole history of the Western movement west,
Western expansion.
Western expansion by the whites, and the deliberate effort, especially involving the U.S. military, to engage in the absolute genocide of the Native Americans. That whole thing, that happened. And you have no right to be surprised or to call it a wild conspiracy theory.
And then he was going on to the Mexican-American War, whatever happened there. There's just been wars out here. I don't even know. So, a lot of history.
Well, the Mexicans will tell you that the loss of Texas as territory was a vast conspiracy on the part of the United States. And the Mexicans will tell you that the loss of California was a vast conspiracy on the part of the United States.
Oh, is it?
That the wars and the treaties and everything had to do with those two events. The Mexicans were going to lose Texas, and the Mexicans were going to lose the Southwest, and the Mexicans were going to lose California. That was a vast conspiracy. And if you think, well, the Mexicans, they're just conspiracists and they're crazy. No, they're not. But there's a Monroe Doctrine. There was a Monroe Doctrine stated at the federal level that we were going to take all the territory from the East Coast to the West Coast.
Oh, really?
It manifests destiny.
Oh.
It is manifest.
Yeah.
It is the will of God. It is manifest that it is manifest in God's will that we will have all the territory from the East Coast to the West Coast. It is our destiny. It is manifest
and we will fought
in the will of God.
We fought Mexico. It was the Mexican
that we will have this. And so when you look at it and you see that the Native Americans were annihilated, that their culture was destroyed, the Mexicans were driven out, their culture was destroyed, that these groups are being constantly destroyed even today. And if you say, well, that's a vast conspiracy, you're a nut. No, it was policy, for Christ's sake. It's not a conspiracy. It was on the books.
We had the Mexican.
We are going to do this, and then they did it. And you have no right to be surprised.
See, right? The Mexican. We went to war. War. Just think about war. War is a joint venture to destroy the Mexican culture, and we did that head by head with the Indians because there wasn't that as many of them or whatever happened. We did a different.
It doesn't matter how many of them. They were not industrialized. They were Stone Age people, and we overwhelmed them.
Well, head by head.
One man with a Winchester rifle could kill hundreds of Native Americans. 4 or 5 men on horses with Winchester rifles could ride into an Indian village and kill nearly everyone in there in an hour.
Right.
And you think they didn't do that? Oh, absolutely, they did that. That's why they're gone.
It was so horrific. It's like, oh my God.
And you think they didn't kill all the buffalo? The plains were black with buffalo herds, blackened with the buffalo. And now you can't find one. You can't find one buffalo.
They destroyed them.
They killed them to destroy the Indian culture. Right. And you're thinking, my God, how could they kill 10 million buffalo? That sounds impossible.
They did.
Go find them. You're so smart. Go find me 10 million buffalo. You won't find them. Why? They're all dead. Why are they dead? Because people killed them. And you think, well, that's wild-eyed conspiracy. No, it's not. It's history. It's just not in the history books. Not in the history books. Never happened. Now we talk about the buffalo as if, they're not quite extinct. There's still some buffalo in Yosemite. You can see them if you're careful. You drive through quietly and you can see the buffalo. They will never fail. They will never mention.
Special.
It's a
grass-fed buffalo meat.
One paragraph on one display in one visitor center somewhere in Yosemite. One paragraph on one display in one visitor center in Yosemite.
About the buffalo.
They mentioned the 10 million buffaloes that darkened the plains. One place. One sentence in one paragraph on one display in one visitor center in one place on earth. Well, do they ever mention the 10 million buffaloes? Because you will not find that mentioned in a history book.
We claimed that territory. We claimed, and that's why people will say it's blood territory. That's somebody like Paul is saying everything out here we took from the Mexicans, we took from the Indians, and it's blood.
It's all drenched in blood.
Yeah.
And this is why you will never save the monarch butterflies. Right, I keep coming back to that point.
We've been
that's when you walked in here and you were lamenting that the monarch butterflies are declining. And I told you, I reminded you, every time this topic comes up, I tell you, oh, they're not just declining, they're going to extinction. And I will stick to that story.
Right.
And that's why we're having this conversation right now.
Right.
Is that you still harbor the delusion, bless your heart, but it's a delusion that the number, it will not go to zero. And so long as you fixate on the numbers, well, this year it's 1,000. Well, next year it's 1,500. Oh, now it's 700. So long as you fixate on the numbers, then you're going down the path of 10 million bison are now gone. Talking about the numbers doesn't save you from zero. And you can say, well, there were so many Native Americans and there were so many, of them were killed, and this tribe went over there, and then this tribe went over this other place, and now there's so many reservations. You can focus on the numbers, but what you're missing is the point that they were driven to extinction. The Native Americans are gone, not maybe genetically, but culturally they're gone, and they will tell you that. They will tell you that they're struggling to keep their culture alive, and it's already impacted by all the problems they've had to deal with for 200 years. Their culture is gone. It's gone. They're pretending to preserve it. It's a pantomime. It's just make-believe. It's gone. The bison are gone. The wide open plains are gone. Their gods are gone. Their languages are going. Their culture is going. And they're not mentioned in the history books. And they never happened. It never happened. North America was unpopulated. And, whites came here, found it wide open, and just their destiny was to take the whole thing.
Their cattle, their special cattle.
They found North America unoccupied.
They owned. That's very important. They owned it. You see, you can't own the bison. They were free and they were out there. That was part of the resources of the American Indians, and we destroyed everything. And then we come in and create the ownership of the property and bring our animals that we own. Everything is owned. And so then it's, it grows, where very fewer people own everything. And at one time it was just the people who own the cattle, and they make a lot of money, and they get the organizations that support health to say that you need some meat. And that was a lie that kept going. We had that in our food chain, and now they're not saying that, but we're still, they keep always putting it in. They have to put it in.
They don't have to say it anymore. Do you know why? Because now it's inculcated into our culture and it propagates itself as a meme.
That you have to have meat. That meat is important, right? Meat is important. So, they've been telling us this, since we're very young.
Most people alive today wouldn't even question that.
And, luckily, Kat was told by his doctor that the healthiest diet was vegan, and Kat's been vegan. I mean, you've been vegan and you've been healthy. Haven't you feeling healthy?
I have nothing to complain about.
Except your eye looks like it's red there on the right. Is it something happened? It's a little bit red in the inside.
I don't know. Maybe allergies. I don't know. Rubbing my eye. Who knows?
Yeah. Drink more water. Anyway, so that's it. So we're just talking about a lot of important things. So thank you, Kat, for sharing that, because we're in a very bad way. And this people of the lie is also very disturbing. And like we're just talking about the lies that we didn't understand about killing the Native American or killing the Mexicans.
I want to close this with a thought. And you as an activist, you don't want to hear this. And I don't think you'll ever incorporate this into your thinking. Mm-hmm. It's only a lie if there's some contrasting truth somewhere. Mm-hmm. And the way you make a lie the truth is you destroy
the truth.
The truth.
Right. You have to keep talking then in the public sphere. That you have to keep talking about it.
What you're saying is a lie. It's only a lie if I know what the truth is. And if the truth is gone, it's been purged, then your lie becomes the truth by default.
Right.
You simply don't talk about the truth anymore.
Right.
And the way that it will be difficult for teachers in the future to avoid the truth that the monarch butterflies went extinct. And so you have to tell a lie that the monarch butterflies did not go extinct. And then you can still have monarch butterflies in your biology book. But that's a lie. And the other way to handle the lie that the monarch butterflies did not go extinct, which would be a lie, is to simply take out of the biology textbook any mention of the monarch butterflies. And if you never talk about them as having ever existed, then they could not have gone extinct.
That's true. That is true.
Okay, now that's a very complicated bunch of dots to connect. But when you say that these people are going to be liars, I'm telling you, they won't be. It simply never happened.
Right.
The monarch butterflies never existed.
Yeah.
And all those animals in David Attenborough's documentaries in order to not have to face the fact that they're gone, those documentaries will be eradicated. He, as a documentary maker, will be eradicated. Not physically as a person. He'll be allowed to continue and to die and to have a gravestone, and he was buried, Sir David Attenborough, and no one will even know why he was knighted. And if there's any mention of him as a documentarian, they'll have to keep it very vague. He did videos and they were very influential and blah, blah, blah. Who knows? What, for all we know, they were about V8 engines. Okay, it doesn't matter what he was doing videos on, documentaries on. Sir David Attenborough got knighted because if he's so influential, blah, 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 mumble, mumble, mumble. And those documentaries themselves would have to be lost to all future time, because they mentioned things that were important at the time, like we must save the herds of wildebeest, we must save the lions, we must save the tigers. These are beautiful creatures and they're part of the earth system, and our responsibility is to preserve these. And why can you allow all that to continue when you didn't do it? So rather than lying about it, you simply get rid of the evidence that it never happened. And that's what we do, and that's what we will do, and that's what's going to happen. And when the Earth dynamic system is too hot to support human life, and there's only 80 million humans left on the Earth, there will be no mention in the history books that there was ever 8 billion humans. They won't mention it. It never happened. You will be taught that we have always been 80 million elite white people. We've always been that. Who would question it? The sun rises in the west in the morning and it sets in the east in the evening, and there have always been 80 million people on Earth, and they've always been white. No one will question it. And it won't be a lie. It won't be a lie anyone's telling, because there'll be no alternative called the truth. And that's how it's done.
Well, yeah, the ones that will die will be the weaker ones that don't have the resources. We're seeing it right now as they're coming over, they're having to trek across the deserts or whatever it is from Central America through Mexico to the US, and they're weakened, and then we're herding them into facilities, and that they're weakened over that's COVID as well as other things. And these are children by themselves, and just very disturbed people. It's very
all
bad.
Controlled demolition.
Yeah.
It's controlled demolition.
So, we're gonna.
The important thing is
controlled, uncontrolled. It's basically uncontrolled. Really.
Doesn't matter. It's allowed to happen. It's deliberately allowed.
Yeah.
It's a policy that it happened, and eventually, when they're gone, we don't have to talk about them anymore.
Right. We will not talk about the Guatemalans. There won't be
happened.
any Hondurans, and there won't be anything from Central America.
Guatemala never existed.
Right.
It'll be very easy to go back and modify the map of the world to
and
just erase Guatemala from the map.
And if it's underwater,
and if you have Guatemala in your map, well, that's fictional. That
was the past.
Yeah, that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
There are lots of nations that have been lost.
And things change always. Things are always changing in the climate.
Yeah, climate always changes. Let's not talk about that, shall we?
Yeah.
Climate changes all the time, and our current climate supports 80 million people, and we all agree that this is how it should be.
And so
no further discussion necessary.
We're not creating environments for people to survive. That's really true. We're not. And so I guess that's what is going forward, is that we're gonna he says for sure there's going to be a massive human die-off. Okay, that's who of us are going to live? Who's going to live? And what people are going to go forward?
Well, let's not pretend that that's like an open-ended question and it's uncertain.
The rich will win.
The rich. All right, let's just call a spade, and
they're already writing the history.
Yeah,
I mean, Google is taking over. They're going to run the show, and
all the people
council members
right now are living in this neighborhood over here that's going to be flattened to make room for the Google Village. They will disappear down the memory hole. They never existed.
Yeah.
Those houses, we have an exact example of that right over here at the airport. There was that community that was near the airport when it was a tiny little airstrip. Right. Okay, not an airport, airstrip.
Right. When it became federal, then
when they decided to enlarge that airport, they eradicated that neighborhood. It was a big neighborhood. It was like a mile on a side.
It had a park.
A half mile on a side.
It was a beautiful neighborhood, really. It was nice.
They eradicated that neighborhood.
Right.
If you go out there now, this is important. This is not unimportant detail. This is not an unimportant detail.
This is our history.
If you go out there now,
the homeless are there.
not just that, you can't find any evidence that there was ever homes.
Hardly, very little, very little. We knew about it, and we would see it a little bit, but it's,
I mean, if
as
you
it
were
goes on, it's
naive,
gotten worse.
if you were naive,
Yeah, you might never know.
there's no foundations,
Right.
there's no pipes sticking out of the
Right.
ground,
Yeah.
there's no derelict houses
Right.
falling down.
Right.
They very deliberately removed every scrap of evidence that
Almost.
that community
Almost.
ever
That's
existed.
true.
The only scraps of evidence.
There's a park left. They left the playground. The playground.
That was a
Columbus
recent
Park.
development.
No, they left Columbus Park.
I'm talking about the houses.
I know, it's all gone.
I'm talking
It's
about
all
the
gone.
people.
Yeah, they're
The
gone.
only evidence,
Yeah.
and you have to be very tuned
What is what?
to the environment, is that
There's some curbs.
you can still see on the curbs
Oh yeah.
the numbers
Oh
painted
yeah.
on the curbs.
Okay. Yeah.
You know how they used to do paint
Yeah,
house
right.
numbers on the
Yeah,
curbs?
yeah.
You can sometimes
I
see
never saw that.
pressed into the concrete,
Yeah.
as they sometimes do,
Yeah.
the name of the street
builder,
that was
the builder. Oh,
destroyed.
really? I've never seen that. I haven't seen that.
Okay,
But anyway, it's true. It's truth that we know that. Kat and I
and
know
you'll
that because
see
we've been here a
you'll
long
see
time.
the sidewalk
Yeah. We know
come
that.
in and turn a little bit and
Yeah.
end
Right.
abruptly,
Mhm.
and the name of the street that used to be there is
Oh.
cast into the concrete,
Oh, nice. I didn't know that.
and you can find this little.
But we know
tiny
that.
bits
So
of
what are you
evidence.
trying to say? So basically, we've destroyed that.
I'm
but
saying that
that was
Google is
example.
coming to our
Right.
neighborhood.
Yeah.
They're going to eradicate these
Right.
neighborhoods,
Yeah.
and it's going to be just like over here at the
Right.
airport.
I know.
There will be no
So-
evidence that it ever happened. Nothing. And
Mhm.
unless you're really tuned in, you're not going to see any evidence. And do you seriously think that anybody at City Hall will allow any documentary to be created about how these houses were torn down and these people left out in the cold and sent someplace else and put on a bus to Seattle? Do you think there'll be any record of that? You're wrong. There will be no discussion of that. And when they are done building their Google Village, the roads, the community centers, the bakeries, the names of the roads, everything will be annihilated. No record anywhere except in the minds of the people who were so impacted. And they will leave here and they will go to Seattle on a bus and they will say, oh yeah, I used to live in San Jose. I used to live on this street and whatever. That street will be gone. The only remaining will be in their memory, and then they die. Never happened. That street, that house, that corner, that lot, those children, those neighborhoods, that community center never existed. It never happened. And you can go over here at the airport, you can wander around in those empty grassy fields, and you can and someone can tell you there used to be a community here, and you won't believe them. There's just no evidence of it. It never happened.
Okay, so that's the truth, and that will happen again. Right. It's just showing it happened.
Yes.
And we lost the community for
and
the
all
airport.
the advocates that maybe would have made sure
Right.
it didn't happen have already been bought off.
Yeah.
And I don't even blame them for that.
Yeah. Well,
They're
my
seeing
neighbor.
their life and
I
their
gotta
community eroded right before their very eyes, and they're going to take the money and run.
Right.
Why not?
Right.
I don't blame them for that.
And that's
It's
what
a smart
that's-
move.
I mean, that's what Paul Soto was saying is that, I don't have any economic interest in the development of what's going on. I just have the historic background of my people way back. And, he's Chicano, and he says he's looking at the way
It
it's
goes
going, and he
nowhere.
doesn't like
It
what's
goes
happening
nowhere.
with the Google
It
Village.
goes nowhere.
And it goes nowhere, right?
It goes nowhere.
And they
And
compartmentalize
if he gets
us.
too loud,
No.
they'll buy him off.
Well, they did. They said to him, "Oh, well, you're going to have a special meeting with us now." Okay, fine. So, they
they'll put
ignore
him-
me.
they'll put
They
him on-
ignore me. They don't make
Yeah.
give me a
They'll put
special
him-
meeting.
Okay, yeah, fine. You're wealthy. Your husband is wealthy. You have your own home. You're not really advocating for a people.
Well, yeah, I'm advocating for a neighborhood that is, bad air. I mean, that this is what I've
Okay, but
been-
no one cares about that.
Yeah.
Paul Horseshoe DeSoto is advocating for people who are about to be lost, and rather than have that on the books, they're just going to
Right.
quietly buy him off,
So I
and he will go the way of people who've been
Right.
bought off.
Right.
And I don't even
Well,
hold that against him.
and I guess I should.
Fine, take
I'm
the
not
money.
going to give
Please,
up
take
on
the money.
my plan for saving nature, and that we're not doing that. We are not doing a good job with
All
that.
right, well, you are an activist, and you have anxiety attacks about losing nature, and you should pursue that. If it's good therapy for you, please do. However, you will not save any nature.
Or even what I want is them to take these open lands and turn them back into food
Okay,
producing.
I don't want to hear it.
Okay.
You can have your wants, and you can labor extensively towards those things. What do I want? What do I actually want? What do I want?
You want to build your house, and you
Okay.
want me to grow food.
Yes, that's what I want.
That's
Why?
true.
because that preserves me and you and maybe some of our family.
Right, and we'd be an example.
Okay, and we could be an example.
I know.
I can't influence anything else, and I can't pursue anything else.
Mhm.
And given the few remaining years of life I have left,
Right.
it is unlikely, it is unwise for me to take on a long-term project.
Mhm.
And we're talking generational change here, and I'm not going to be engaged in generational change.
And you say for me to drop out of it, and I keep, thinking, I want to, save life on Earth, and be.
Yeah, and David Attenborough. And you and David Attenborough will end up in the same dustbin for the same reason.
And that's what God says. So, right. And it's a lot of energy and it's a lot of time writing letters and doing this and things like that. And, he says I'm supposed to just be growing food.
Well, I just spent 5
right.
hours making YouTube videos, so I can't fault someone who wants to try and make a difference.
Right.
All I'm doing is recording my anguish of the knowledge that it's already done.
Right. Right. And that's what God says is that, just be an example. And, they're not listening to me. They don't want to hear it. And they want to go ahead with their imaginary games.
Including all the activists who you think are on your side, right up until they are handed money for them and their community. And since you have no community, you're not valuable to fund. You're not even valuable to make silent. You don't represent a community. All your neighbors are wealthy. You don't represent them.
Anyway,
they don't need to be represented.
Yeah. So, that was that, right. It was not an easy, thing. And, so Kat says to just start doing it myself. And it does. It takes a full-time job to grow food, And so, I guess I can sign off from my city, even though.
Or stay engaged if it's good therapy to feel like you're doing something. So you feel like you're validated.
Hey, well, that's nice. That I'm written down in history.
That's all you're doing.
Like, okay, so what Steve said.
Let's not pretend it makes a difference.
What Steve said that when there's a park, he's going to name it in my honor. Okay, fine. That's what Steve said.
Steve who?
Steve, the guy who lives on Villa, our neighbor. Remember Steve? He's a gay guy who lives on Villa. You don't remember him?
No, I don't remember people. People don't rise to my consciousness, okay?
Oh, no. You don't remember Steve?
No.
He was, anyway, he lived on Villa in one of those beautiful homes on Villa and right near us. He knew about us and he knows about me because we've been fighting Royal Coach tours. And
I don't pay any more attention to people than I pay attention to squirrels. Okay. They don't rise to any level of importance. Why? Because I can't change what a squirrel does, and what a squirrel does is not useful to me, and I can't change what people do, and what people are doing is not useful to me. They're destroying the planet. I can't stop them from doing that. And the more distance I can put between me and that, the better off my mental state is. Yes, I have my problems. I can't face it. And you face it by trying to change it, being an activist and going to all these meetings and pounding on the table and getting your 30 seconds and having your 30 seconds lost to history because it's not even reported.
Right.
That's how you work with your mental state. That's your therapy. Fine. If you need therapy, you do that. It's cheap at the price, which is nothing except time.
Right, time. And that's the critical part.
And at some point, the time will be a big cost.
Critical part. Yeah, it's critical part.
At some point, your time spent that way will be a cost.
All right. So I guess got to stop it because, it's a lot of time and energy to try to fix everybody and set everybody straight.
Not happening. And I'm sure there were a lot of people trying to save the Native Americans. That didn't happen. There were probably people advocating to save the buffaloes. That didn't happen. People advocating right now to try and stop climate change. That's not going to happen. So how much time are you going to waste and have lost for all time from your life to do things that don't matter?
Yeah, to take care of myself, which I need to do just in terms of my own health, because I'm not in a good place because of all the pollution and all the problems, how we've built our world. And, I say, I'm lucky I'm still alive. I'm disabled, but I'm still alive. So, a lot of people have died, from pollution. So I'm only disabled from pollution. So I'm speaking from the grave almost, and it's not much longer for me on earth,
Well,
and so that's just my generation.
Your lesson from the grave will be lost from history.
Yeah, most probably. Right.
Most probably. What do you mean most probably?
Right,
Absolutely.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
Your lesson
But
from
he
the
did
grave
say he did
will
say
be
he put
lost
my
and
name.
will
He
be
would
lost.
put my name on some park.
Well, but even if he does, no one will understand what that means. Who was this person? Was this an industrialist? Was this a wealthy matron in the community? Who was this person? It's not going to mean anything.
She spoke for the trees.
That,
spoke for the
he's
butterfly.
not going to say that. Absolutely not going to say that. He'll put your name on a piece of play equipment, memorial swing.
We killed her too.
And no one who even reads it will understand what that means.
We killed her too. One more we killed. We killed her too. We'll just list it. She's just a byproduct of capitalization and consumerism.
This ship has hit that iceberg, and this ship is going down.
Yeah,
okay.
So, yeah.
And it doesn't matter that you were on it, or that it was named after you, or that you paid a lot of money for your ticket, or that you played a great game of baccarat, or that you were great on the cello. It doesn't matter.
My name will be on some park that's saved, some wildlife that's saved, some. Okay, good. All right, fine. That's not so bad, but I doubt we'll ever see it. We'll never see my park.
No, you won't see it.
No. There'll be a hotel there in the 50-story.
And you, as grim as it sounds,
there's gonna be high rises,
and all of your activism will vanish
right
into the memory hole.
Yeah.
No one will remember. I mean, if I outlive you, I'll remember, and then I'll die, and no one will remember.
Right. It's only
what difference did it make?
And our kids don't like what we're saying anyway.
Nobody,
so they're not going to remember.
Yeah, nobody who agonized over the fate of the Native Americans is recorded in a history book, and the fate of the Native Americans wasn't saved by them agonizing over it.
Nobody cares about me.
And no one's going to save the monarch butterflies. And if anybody's agonizing over the monarch butterflies, it doesn't make a difference that they did agonize.
No.
And it's not going to be recorded that they agonized.
Right.
There's not going to be anyone given credit of any kind for agonizing over the death of the monarch butterflies. And when they're gone, they're also going to be written out of the history books. There'll be no mention of them in a biology textbook, even though they were miracles of nature at the time. They will not be mentioned in the biological texts or the history books. It won't be.
That's good. Anyway, I did turn my sunlights on outstairs and still working on that whole system there, but it didn't come on. So that one is totally broken. And I guess we have to throw that away because it doesn't work. That one has to be thrown away.
Don't keep broken things.
Yeah. And I know I've had, here's this one. I wonder if this one will work. See, this is an older model, but I wonder if that one might work.
Don't see why not. Plug it in and see if it goes around.
If it works.
Timers for timing things.
Yeah, for growing food.
Plug it in, set the time to an obvious time, and see if it goes around.
It's a little different design. It's a different design.
No, it's the same. It's just the switch that's being flipped by these two paddles.
But you put, this is the current time goes here. That's the current time, right? The current time. So you move it always clockwise.
I don't know. You don't force it, that's for sure.
I know,
yeah, so it doesn't do counterclockwise. It turns clockwise.
Right.
And then you
right now it's 4 o'clock, so let's say 4 o'clock.
You can verify that the on-off works, but
and then you pull those things out and put them where they're supposed to go, the same way.
Yeah.
They pull out, right? And you put those in. Yeah. What is this little part there? Oh, that's just what is that?
That's the on-off switch.
Oh, does it say on and off?
I'm not sure this works.
Oh no, it might be dead.
Yeah, I think it's dead.
Oh, that worked a little. It made a sound. Is it worth trying?
Yeah, but I see that it works turning on.
Oh, it only turns. No, the on doesn't go on. That one's not working.
Only see one click.
That's not working. That's not working. That's that one.
Oh, maybe
maybe it's not in the right place.
Maybe it's not.
The orange is not. It's in the right place.
I may have to experiment.
Oh, to see, can you take it out? Okay.
The on is not working. The off is working.
Yeah, right. Only one is working. It should have 2 clicks. Right. Does that come out easy? And how do you take that out? Because the other ones came out kind of easy. It's an older model.
Maybe I can figure it out.
But how do I pull those out? Do they pull out?
I don't know. It doesn't seem to work like that other one works.
Oh, okay. I wonder how you take them out.
I don't know. I'll have to figure it out. I'll fiddle with it.
Oh, look, it's got
a bad thing here. I'm not going to do it on a YouTube video.
No, let me show you. Look, it's only got a 2-prong. That's bad in itself.
No.
Oh, it's got 3-prong? Yeah, that's old.
That is a limitation.
So that's it. Forget that. Forget that. That's not going to work.
All right.
It's dead. That's dead. There's only 2-prong.
Yeah, that's not going to work. Yep.
Okay, fine. It's old. It's an old.
And it's old, and I'm not sure it's even working.
I have to buy a new one, just like our old ones. The one that broke. Okay, I have to buy one from Ace. I can buy it from Ace.
Yeah. On this video, we solved one problem. There you go.
We're technologists. You know, we're the futurists. We're the hippie generation. We've done a lot of good things for our community. You and I. We're leaders in our community.
I don't think we did anything good for our community because I don't think we've had any impact of any
I
kind.
don't
And
think
get
that's
used to the fact.
I don't think that's true because we're building and have lived fossil fuel free.
Okay. In our lives, we have made changes that makes us better people.
That's
Or
right.
more
We're the
prepared.
best. We are,
the best people. Fine.
We are.
But, doesn't mean we change the neighborhood, which is what you said. So,
Right. But we are setting an example. And we have
Fine.
set our example with our bike riding
there you go.
and our children, the way we raise our children. They
And
bike
I'm
ride.
sure there were a lot of people living in the Midwest who set the example of treating the Native Americans properly and not killing the buffalo, and it made no difference. The Native Americans were absolutely destroyed and the buffalo were gone. So, yes, do the right thing, live a good life, right livelihood, and don't destroy anybody and don't destroy nature, and set an example. And there's no guarantee that capitalism and consumerism is going to give one flying fuck for your example. And the lesson of history is that we've lost a lot.
And the rich write the history books.
And the rich write the
and
history
it's
books,
going to be
as
what
is
it
inevitably
is.
the case.
There's going to be a lot of lies, and we're going to lose. I mean, Kat is saying, and this is
There are
important.
only lies so long as the truth is out
We're
there.
going to lose, and that's where I feel like we have to still become active so that our voice is heard.
Okay.
Because in the
All right,
in the
so
annals
now we've come full
Full
circle,
circle.
and you are still in denial, and you think you're making a difference. You're not. You think
Okay.
your voice will be
All right,
recorded.
fine.
It hasn't been, and you think that
Right.
the future will look back and elevate you
Yeah.
as a person who knew the
Okay,
truth,
good.
and it won't.
And the thing is, I will die more quickly because of my health reasons. So I really need to spend time taking care of my
You need
health.
to take care of yourself,
my health.
and maybe you'll live a good life
Right.
yourself,
Right.
and a clean life that you
Right.
know in your heart of hearts is the proper life.
Right.
And then you take all that knowledge with you, and in the end, we still have the sixth mass extinction,
Right.
and we're not going to be able to save the
Right.
butterflies.
But there will be something left here on my property about how I
Fine.
thought we should live.
Fine. And if that gives you,
That does
if
feel
that
good.
if that makes you feel better about your situation,
Yeah.
and that gives you some solace, as
Right.
we say,
Right.
then it was good therapy
Right.
at the price.
Right. Well, it's very good therapy. It's really nice. I love spending time with my plants. They're really fun.
Then you should spend all your time with your plants.
Oh, okay.
If that makes you feel good, then that is a better alternative to feeling badly
Right.
when no one
Listen
has
to
your
you.
same concerns.
Right. No one listens to me.
When you feel bad, when you spent your 2 minutes trying to convince people, and then they don't even report that you tried,
Right.
and all of your words and all of your thoughts just go into the vacuum of space.
Of capitalism and consumerism.
Yeah, and if that leaves you feeling bad, then stop doing it and do something that makes you feel good, which is
Right.
what they are all doing.
You're saying spend time with plants because
I'm asking you
Yeah.
what makes you feel good about yourself,
Yeah.
and you say working in my garden makes me feel good, and I have no anxieties when I'm working in my garden. Then I'm telling you, you should work in your garden.
I know. So, Kat, you reminded me of this meeting this morning. You even said, "Are you going, Tessa?" You told me that, so you were like interested.
I don't mind
that-
if you do it. I don't really care.
But
if
now
you do it
really,
or you don't.
I know, but it's a waste of my time, and you've been telling me that, and it really feels bad when they lie and they why would I want to be around those people?
Okay, it would not be a waste of your time if you left the meetings feeling good,
Mm.
because feeling good would buoy you
Then
and
make me
make
feel
you
good.
happy and would be solace for your soul. But if you leave these meetings feeling bad,
Yes.
and there's no way to not feel bad, and there's no way the meeting would
Well,
ever happen in a
the
way
only
that you
thing that
feel
felt
good,
good
stop going to the
Is
meetings.
I connected with the two other people who were of a similar ilk of me, where Jean Dresden, who's a community leader, says she says she doesn't want to live here, and that she's glad that she'll be dead when all this happens.
I don't see
you
how
know?
that can be an uplifting thought
No.
at all.
I know, so that means it's bad the way we're going forward.
Doesn't
And-
matter if it's bad. It's how we're
and
going forward.
Jean
Get over
Dresden
it.
doesn't like it, so
Doesn't matter if she doesn't like
important.
it. That's how we're going forward. She knows it. You should know it.
Mhm.
And if it makes you feel bad, stop talking about it, because that's what's happening.
Mhm.
If that sounds like a defeatist attitude, no, it
Yeah.
isn't.
So I think that
I just don't want you doing things that
there's
make you
hope.
feel bad.
I think I would like to work with Jean Dresden and Paul Horseshoe Soto. I think they're very important people in our community.
All right. Well, be prepared for the very important people in your community to opt out.
Mhm.
Because all over San Jose right now, people who were very important people in their community and were advocating for their community's voices have opted out. And you know that's a fact. And I'm telling you, now they're working for the city. And they're getting grants from Google to paint murals in their community, celebrating their culture, because that's all they're going to have at the end, is a mural in their city to celebrate their extinct culture. It's going.
And, you know, there's a lot of strong political forces that are saying, you know, that are working for Google. And what was it? I was just thinking it was something. Oh, it was all about this SAP center and how they're demanding. I'm tired
of this discussion. You can have your own video anytime you want on your discussion. This was supposed to be about the monarch butterflies.
Okay, good.
And I'm done.
All right, that's.
I've been doing this all afternoon.
All right, thank you.
I am done.
Right. Okay, good. All right.
I'm done on so many levels.
All right. I look forward to seeing your other one. What was your other programs called that you did
I can't even remember. You can look it up.
There was 2 of them
on YouTube.
You did 2 of them today on YouTube too today?
Yes.
Oh, wow. There's so many problems. Thank you, Kat, for helping with so many of our problems. And
I'm not helping with the problems.
Okay.
I'm just on here doing my version of therapy.
Okay.
Just putting it out there, and it makes me feel better if I talk about it.
Okay.
It's not changing the world. It's not changing anybody. Not changing anything. And eventually, I will go down the memory hole just like everything else.
I think that's the lesson Kat has taught to us, is that we have to start, you know, doing what we can.
I don't want to talk about your activism.
No,
it makes me sick.
No, I was talking about.
I don't want to hear it.
No, you didn't hear what I was saying. What we can do, which is individually, we can do something like me growing food and Kat building his house.
Well, anytime you start out with save the planet, I lose interest.
No, I know. I'm saying I'm giving that up because that is the record that will go forward. It will be imprinted, what we have done. Whereas in these meetings and the activism, they just wipe you off of the slate, you know?
I hope you don't set your heart on, you know, being validated by future generations. What you need to do, what I want you to do, example right here, is do what you feel is right.
Yeah.
So that you have some solace in your soul.
Right.
About what you're doing with your personal life. Okay? That you are not in conflict with your own spirit.
Right.
And that you and your spirit are in alignment with your livelihood and your actions. Therefore, you can go into the future alone or with anyone else feeling okay about how you lived your life. And when you die in your final moments and you reflect on the events of your life, there will be very few events that you resent, that you are saddened that you did not do the right thing, that you did the right thing for whatever your values were, and that when you die, you are resolved. Okay? You leave this world resolved. Not because you changed the world, because if that is your goal, you're going to be savagely disappointed. But if you lived your life in alignment with what you know to be right, then when you leave this world, you will be resolved and absolved of any wrong to that extent. But you will not save the monarch butterflies. Nor do you need to bear the taint, the scar, and the curse of having been alive when they went extinct. You do what you can do within your life with the knowledge that that was your responsibility. And nothing else is your burden, as far as I'm concerned. It's not going to be mine. And no one's going to hold me to account that I did not personally save the monarch butterflies. They're gone. Even as we sit here, and even as there are 20,000 left in the world, they are functionally gone. And the day will come when someone will write an article, maybe not even, that says, we think they're gone. And you're going to say, well, someone just wrote an article that they think they're gone. And I'm going to say to you at the time, I'm surprised they even bothered mentioning it. That'll be my response. And you'll say, that's so cynical. No, it's not. It's not cynical at all. I predicted in advance that that's what I was going to say. And why I was going to say it was because it never mattered. And I'm surprised they even mentioned it, that they're gone. And I can guarantee you they're not going to do it again. There's nothing else that they're going to tell you that it's gone. It'll be gone, and it will never have happened.
And those are the type of people we're dealing with.
That's who we're dealing with.
They're going to be left here. The evil people, evil, immoral,
evil, or that's how they coped with the sad reality of what they've done.
They did nothing though to change it.
They did nothing to change it because it was going to cost them money. And when they did nothing to change it, and it happened, well, then, you know, part of their mental health and their mental hygiene was to just not look at it. And they didn't write about it. And they didn't write that it happened. And they didn't write ahead of time that it was going to happen. And then after it becomes a matter of history only, they're not going to write that it was ever a problem. Monarch butterflies? Oh, yeah. Those never happened. You're not going to see that written anywhere. Because someone will ask, well, where are they? What are what? The monarch butterflies. Oh, I'm surprised that reference is still there. Let me contact the publisher. We got to get that taken care of. Eventually, it's not going to happen. Right? The prediction is eventually there's not going to be a biology curriculum. Because there'll be so many things extinct and so many things stricken from the books and the textbooks, so many things we can't talk about anymore, that they'll just drop the whole subject. Biology, oh yeah, we don't teach that. They never taught that. That was dumb. That's like teaching astrology, witchcraft. We don't teach those things anymore.
Yeah.
They have no value to society. Talk about biology. Talk about habitat diversity and no. It's like astrology. It's useless. It's meaningless. Have these conversations. It's silly. Why burden people with this nonsense, this mythology of, biodiversity? That was just a bad dream. That's how it's going to go. Because it needs to. Because that's how people will go forward. They're not going to beat themselves over what they did. Simply never happened.
But we could change. We could change. But, God says we're not
Who's
going
we,
to.
and why would we do it?
Well, we'd have to have
it is going to cost us money.
Right, different values.
So we are not going to pursue.
So,
I'm done.
All right.
I can't do this anymore.
All right, fine.
Try to be happy.
All right.
Just try. You too. Try to be happy, okay?